Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a detailed review of the Natasha Denona GLAM palette. I just picked this up a couple days ago. It actually came really fast. A lot of people have been tagging me in this palette because you guys know I am as basic as it gets when it comes to my eyeshadow preferences. I love neutrals. I will always love them. And I don't create the most intricate, majestic, creative eye looks. I love a simple, classic, beautiful neutral eye look, so this palette was right up my alley. So I decided I wanted to sit down and play with this palette today. I'm going to show you swatches. I'm going to try it on my eyes for the first time and just give you my thoughts. So if you guys are interested in seeing my first time using this palette and hearing my thoughts, then just keep on watching. So obviously something that is well known about Natasha Denona is that they are very expensive palettes. They are very pricey. A lot of people steer away from them completely because there are so many alternatives on the market. And believe me, I'm with you. Up until about a year ago, I just didn't feel the need to purchase them at all. And I still will tell you there's going to be alternatives out there. You don't need to spend this much on eyeshadow. This GLAM palette in particular is one of the smaller ones, so it is $65, which isn't as high as their $125 palettes, but it's still very pricey for an eyeshadow palette. So obviously this is a neutral palette. Every brand pretty much has a neutral palette, but this is more kind of on the cool side. It also has more shimmers than mattes, which is one of the big kind of negatives that a lot of people have to say about this palette, is that it's mostly shimmer. I have to agree with that because my personal preference is more on the matte side, especially if I am going for a neutral look. Most of the time, if I'm gonna slap an eyeshadow on before I run out the door, it's gonna be a matte eyeshadow. But I will say every now and then, especially in the fall and winter, I do love neutral shimmers, which this palette is full of. Okay, so it has 10 shimmers and 5 mattes. I guess it could be worse if you guys are matte lovers. It does have kind of a light cream matte, and it also has an almost black, and then it does have a few in between shades. I personally think it could use a few more crease or transition shades. That's just my personal preference. And then the rest of them are beautiful neutral shimmers. And I will say they are very beautiful. Before I sat down to film this, I did swatch this palette for my Instagram. I'll show you the swatches now, the perfect swatches that I use my swatch stencils to create. And then I will swatch this one by one at the end of the video for you guys live if you guys want to see the payoff. But that's the thing about Natasha Denona. It has a lot of pigment, and the shimmers in particular for me are some of the best quality that I have. So I think a lot of the confusion around this palette is around the names. So the names of the shadows are suggestions where you place the shadow. So for example, the names are center eyelid, outer eyelid, inner corner, crease, transition, smoke, blend, and lash line. There's also one called brow bone. Obviously, you do not have to play by the rules with any makeup. You can totally do whatever you find to be natural to you. Makeup is just a way of expressing yourself. You certainly don't have to put them where they say you need to put them. Also, what I find really cool, and with most Natasha Denona palettes, I believe, is that it is magnetic. So if you guys can see the back of the palette here, there are little pinholes. You can poke something through there and you can move these shadows around according to where you want to use them. So if you disagree with a use, you can swap these around. And I believe that the Natasha Denona website might have a couple different layout options if you want to follow their rules or their suggestions. So before we pop this onto my eyes, I do want to say I think that the best customer, personally in my opinion, for this palette is going to be somebody who either is a beginner and doesn't really know where to place eyeshadow, or somebody in the workforce who wants something very easy to slap on that's going to be professional appropriate. This is going to be a great kind of neutral workday palette in my opinion. That is kind of what I see when I see this palette. Obviously it's not going to be for everybody. There are a lot of people out there that want something different and exciting, but there are some of us who just appreciate a good neutral. So I'm gonna slap my hair up, I'm gonna zoom you guys in, and we're going to do an eye look today. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I think I am going to try to go by their suggestions and just see how the look turns out. Okay, so zooming you guys in a little bit, I kind of have to cross my fingers that this camera is autofocusing. It is a new camera, so please bear with me. I realized that for the past couple videos, I actually had this on manual focus on accident, which is just the bane of my existence. Like, everything was out of focus. So I am crossing my fingers because I have it on autofocus that it's halfway decent. Okay, so first I'm gonna take the shade called Transition. It's kind of like a cream, but it's a cool toned, kind of grayish cream. It's not like an actual cream color. It's kind of hard to describe. It is very cool toned. This whole palette, I would say, is more on the cool toned side of things. So I'm gonna take this shade with an E40 from Sigma. This one I think was out of a breast cancer collection. And I'm just gonna set that eyeshadow base down. I have a little bit of wrinklage and creasing that wants to happen on my lid. So along the lines of makeup rules, I can't remember. I feel like it was a pro makeup artist, I don't want to name names, but somebody I was watching said that mature women should not be wearing shimmers on their lids, and I completely disagree with that. I almost prefer shimmers on mature eyelids or like more wrinkly eyelids. I don't know why people think that there are age limits to certain textures, but I just disagree completely. Coming from somebody who has a little bit of wrinkles on my eyelids, I like when I have shimmers on. As long as you have a proper base down and you're not getting like an oily kind of creasing going on, I think the shimmer is totally fine. So that was another kind of thing I saw going around criticizing this palette, is that it's kind of geared towards like the working woman or a more mature age range, and there's too many shimmers. And like I said, I do love more mattes in a palette than this has, but I don't think that means that people with mature skin can't wear shimmers. I definitely don't agree with that. I think a nice shimmery eyelid looks good on anybody. Okay, so yeah, this does kind of have like a little bit of a gray tone to it, so I am gonna end up with a really cool toned eye look probably. But this is all over the lid. Now I can go in with another shade, but I am trying to follow the rules of the palette here. So there is a shade called Crease right next door to Transition. Crease is definitely like a gray. I'm a little colorblind, by the way, so I'm trying my best to describe these. It looks like a gray to me, so I'm gonna pop this into the crease. There's a little bit of fallout with Natasha Denona shadows. It's because they are so pigmented. I'm taking a soft blend brush from Sigma, and I'm going to blend this into the crease. It's giving me smoky eye kind of vibes. Ooh, look at that. It really defines my lid. So on the topic of kind of rules and makeup and all of that, I think it's also important to realize that everybody is different. You can play with makeup, like you can be someone like me who's been playing with makeup for a decade, and you're still not the type to be interested in intricate makeup looks. I will occasionally get some criticism on my looks being basic or boring, and I just think it's important to note that makeup is not for anybody but the person wearing it. Even as an influencer coming on here, I do my makeup in a way that I enjoy, and you should do the same. So if you get offended by the way that somebody else wears their makeup, just ask yourself why you care, because you should only care about what you're doing with your own face. And people have their preferences, and I love colorful looks, absolutely, and I love intricate makeup looks. I love looking at them on other people. I think they're beautiful, but unless I have an occasion for that kind of thing, it's not really my style, which is why I don't do it, and I like to stick to things that I personally enjoy. I love this soft blend brush from Sigma. What is this? I lied, it's not the soft blend. This is the Detailed Diffused Crease Brush, and it's doing its little crease job, that's for sure. If you guys are watching right now, then let me know in the comments, what do you prefer, a cool tone or warm toned eye look? With that being said, have you tried the other way around? Because I'm a warm toned kind of bitch, we all know that, but every time I try cool toned, I'm like, wow, my makeup looks good today. And it's like, why can't you just get it through your head that you might be a cool toned kind of person? I don't know why, but it happens every time, every single time. Today is no exception. I'm loving the way that it's making like my skin tone look and my eyes look, and we're only 2 shadows in. Okay, so that was crease. Let me look around to see what the other shades are. This is looking like it's gonna be a top row kind of look today. So I'm gonna take the shade Inner Corner. It's a beautiful metallic with this little smudger brush. This is the Smudge E21 from Sigma. And I think I'm gonna put this on my inner corner, but I'm also going to put it on my brow bone. Ooh, very, very pretty. Kind of matches my highlighter today. I'm gonna hit the brow bone with this shade too. We're gonna break the law of the Glam palette. I don't know if I will rearrange mine, just because I like to have it how it comes, just so when I'm doing looks you guys can follow along with your own palette. But let me know if you guys bought this. Are you gonna switch it around? Are you gonna pop them out and kind of switch up the palette? Ooh, okay, so that's a nice brow bone color too. And there's a few shades in this palette called Outer Eyelid and Center Eyelid. So there's a lot of suggested looks in here, but the outer eyelid color on the top is kind of like a pewter. I'm gonna pick this up with a Sigma short shader brush. It's raining and you might be able to hear it on my air conditioner. I'm actually not using my microphone today because it turns out it's very echoey. We're going about halfway. It does say outer eyelid, but I'm going halfway. So for the center eyelid shade, I need to decide which one I want to use because there's a bunch of center eyelids. There's this one that's more of like a pinky on the top row. Let's just swatch. There's the top row center eyelid. There's the middle row center eyelid. And there's 2 on the bottom. So according to the palette, these are our center eyelid choices. So I'm actually just gonna wipe off that same brush that I just used. I'm just sitting here hoping we're focused. So I'm gonna take the center eyelid shade out of the second row. It's the last shade in the second row. And this brush is a little wet from the baby wipe that I just used, which is nice because I don't want to get fallout. I'm gonna put this in the blank space that we have left and the center of the eyelid. So inner and center. A little bit of wetness to that brush from the baby wipe and we get quite a bit of a pop of pigment. Okay, so taking that little diffused crease brush and a little bit of the outer eyelid shimmer, I'm gonna tap off the excess, but I'm gonna hit the center to blend those 2 colors together. I just want to make sure there's no harsh lines happening. This is quite the smoky look for me. I don't typically do a look like this. Also, I would say the look I came up with is probably not like the most office appropriate. So I'm taking a smudger brush. Nothing in the palette, surprisingly, says lower lash line. There is one that says lash line, but in my mind, I'm assuming that means like as an eyeliner. But there is one that says smoke. We're breaking the rules of the palette again because I don't want to use either of those. I don't want to use either of those. So I'm going to take the smudger brush with the outer eyelid shade from the top row. And that's what's going to go on the lower lash line. I want the bottom to match the top, and I'm just putting a little. I don't really feel like I need a whole lot under there. Okay, then I am going to take my fluffy blending from the beginning, and I'm just gonna go over the brow bone and crease. I just want to make sure there's nothing harsh. Oop, messed up my brows. That was the eyeshadow, but I'll walk you guys through the rest of my look just because I have a new eyeliner from the drugstore that I've really been loving. This is from Wet n Wild. This is their new breakup proof waterproof liquid liner. Let's pray we do not have to test that theory out. But it's a nice little felt tip, and I'm gonna do a little cat eye because when I do a look like this, typically I like to have a winged liner just to make it as dramatic as we can make it. Why is that one so much better than the other one? Leave it to me. One wing slays my existence and the other one is so dull. Okay, so for lashes, these have been my favorites for years now. I'm so basic. These are the Ardell Demi Wispy Studio Effects. They have a little more something to them, and I've been loving these for so long now. So I'm gonna pop these on with my Duo Vitamin Enriched Lash Adhesive. I actually had to pop off camera and put some mascara on because I'm dumb and forgot to put mascara on. But it's fine because I put so much glue on these that they're going to take forever to dry anyways. My eyes are definitely not the most even that they've ever been as far as lashes and liner, but that is totally okay. I still really like the eye look. I need to go over this glue with the liner once it's dry, but I'm going to add a little mascara to my lower lashes. I like the glue that I use because it's like bright blue until it's dry. So while I'm doing my eyeliner, I'll just discuss this palette a little bit. I'm happy with my purchase. I did purchase this myself. I used points. I used some of my Sephora points to get the $10 off. But I do feel like, of course, there are a million options out there for drugstore eyeshadow and like more affordable eyeshadow for neutrals. But I have to say, out of like my high-end palettes, my high-end neutrals, this might be one of my new favorites. I'm trying to think of what could be comparable to this. The only thing I can kind of think of is Sultry or Soft Glam. Actually, I might have to whip that palette out and give you guys a little comparison. Okay, so Natasha Denona is a 15-pan palette for $65, and it has these shades in it. And the Sultry palette is the one from Anastasia that I believe is most comparable. It is a 14-pan eyeshadow palette for what, $45, $42, $45, and these are the shades. Okay, so I'm trying not to blind you guys, but they are quite similar. Like, we've got a few shimmers in here that are pretty similar. We have like the shimmery pink. Rose Quartz is kind of like center eyelid on the top row. We have Teak, which is a beautiful bronze, kind of like outer eyelid on the bottom row. Cyborg and center eyelid on the second row. So these are the most comparable shades out of the palette. I wanted to give you an actual side-by-side. The top row is the Natasha Denona and the bottom is Anastasia. So even though they are very similar, the tones in the actual shadows are different and the reflex are a little bit different. Anastasia has a little bit more glitter in the metallics, and they're not spot on for each other, but they are very similar. Alright, so I don't think I have much else to say about this palette, so I think it's a good time to swatch the shades one by one for you guys. I like this. I think it's going to be really beautiful for maybe somebody who doesn't have a lot of neutral palettes, or someone who wants an everyday work palette or a cool toned neutral palette. But obviously there are so many alternatives on the market. If you guys have Sultry, Sultry is very similar. I don't think this is a necessity unless unless you are lacking in the neutral palette department. With that being said though, I'm really happy with this purchase personally, and I'm not like upset that I spent the money on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and swatch these one by one for those of you who like a live swatch. We're gonna start with center eyelid in the top row, which is kind of a rosy color. I also can't promise you that my camera's gonna focus for all of these. But that is the first center eyelid shade. Next up is outer eyelid. Outer eyelid is on my outer eyelid today. There is outer eyelid. Next is inner corner, a really beautiful shade, probably my favorite out of the palette. That is stunning. Next up is the shade crease. So there is crease. Next up is transition. This is that kind of gray toned cream. All right, so that is the shade transition. Onto the second row, we have a brown matte color called smoke. So there is smoke. This middle row is a little more warm toned, like the browns. Next up is blend. This is a lighter brown matte. So there is blend. With my skin tone, that would make a really nice blending shade. I like that. It actually looks a lot like a bronzer shade I would like, and it looks like something that I would slap in the crease and go to work. Next is the shade Lash Line. So there is Lash Line, just a nice deep smoky matte. Next is Inner Corner on the middle row. Ooh, these are so pigmented. Natasha Denona really does slay the metallics and the shimmers. So if you love shimmer, you're really gonna love this palette. Next is center eyelid. Second row, center eyelid. Really beautiful, kind of silvery color. Next up is the bottom row. This is a gold called center eyelid. Ooh, hello, that is stunning. Next up is a shade I would wear literally all the time. All over the lid, by itself. This is outer eyelid of the bottom row. I love a brown bronze. It's just my thing. We're almost done. My hand hates me. We're on to a lighter champagne gold called center eyelid on the bottom row. This is the bottom middle shade. I can't deal. Next up is outer eyelid on the bottom row. This one is more of like a pewter. So there's the second to last shade on the bottom row called outer eyelid. And the last shade is called brow bone on the bottom row. I don't know if I would use this on my brow bone. It's a little deep for me, but it's like a champagne gold kind of. So there is the shade brow bone. So the Glam palette is definitely approved by me, and to be honest with you, I thought I might end up coming on here and disliking it just because of some of the things that I was reading online, but I have to say it's not that big of a turnoff for me that it doesn't come with more mattes. I kind of wish it had more mattes. I'm wondering if I have any other palettes that I could swap shades with. But again, I don't like doing that because I want you guys to be able to follow along with future tutorials. But I realize now that I probably have repeated myself a million times in this video, and if I did, I'm sorry, that's just how I roll. But if you guys did enjoy this review, then please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to see more looks, let me know. I'm probably going to do them anyways, to be honest. So follow me on my Instagram if you want to see short tutorials. I do post a lot of, 60-second to like 2-minute Instagram TV videos on my Instagram. But that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me. If you are new here, please hit subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on future videos. Next on my agenda, I do believe, is the Rare Beauty Selena Gomez line. I did purchase a bunch of products. They're probably not coming until after the Labor Day weekend. And then I have 4 days of work. I'm going back to work and then I'll be able to get that video up. So please do stick around if you want to see some future content from me. But I love you guys. I hope you have a great day and hopefully I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.